Hey guys, welcome back to Team 6K. This is Undead, and today we're going to be talking about Kozmos. So there was a poll and Kozmos won it. I still want to show off the other decks though, so expect to see those videos soon. There won't be a poll for those. However, there are going to be other polls on the channel again. So if you want to see those polls and you want to vote on them, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so you can get notified when the poll happens. Before we get into the video though, be sure to go ahead and check out our last video, Weatherman's Dynamists. They're really damn amazing. If you guys don't know about Dynamist, then you better check that out because it is an absolutely amazing deck that nobody seems to be remembering, and it could really compete in this meta. Also, be sure to check out our Twitter and our TikTok so you can get more Team 6K content and interact with Team 6K more. You guys wanted to see it, you guys voted for it, so here I'm showing you what I believe to be the best version of Kozmos available. There's a bunch of other versions out there playing Revival Traps and Dark Hole. In my testing, and I did do a lot of testing, those are pretty unreliable, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, the synergy is obvious, right? Tin Can's effect happens to get your Kozmos in the graveyard. You can revive them with the traps to get their on-summon effects. That's assuming that Tin Can survives until the end of the turn. And then Dark Hole, of course, it allows us to trigger our ship's floating effects. But the thing is that it doesn't do anything to the best deck in the game, Orchist. And to be real with you, little spoiler warning, Kozmos is already bad enough against Orchist as it is, because our main form of removal in this deck is destruction, and they can't be destroyed in the first place. And our main form of protection is targeting protection, and they don't even need to target us to remove us. Nor do they need to destroy us, so we're still not even going to get our floating effects. But I'm getting too ahead of myself. I'm saying too many things about this deck without even telling you what the cards do. The Kozmo archetype's kind of funny. It's a mixture of Star Wars and the Wizard of Oz. You probably wouldn't think, oh man, Star Wars and the Wizard of Oz, they go together like Saturdays, Cold Ones, and The Boys. But it kind of does work well together. All of the cards in their archetype, which I'm not going to go over all of them, are kind of like mixtures of characters or items from either of those two stories. Kozmo Farm Girl here is a mixture between Dorothy and Luke Skywalker. Tin Can is a mixture between the Tin Man and R2-D2. Strawman is a mixture between the Scarecrow and C-3PO. Kozmo Dark Lady is a mixture between the Wicked Witch of the West and Darth Vader. Kozmo Dark Destroyer is the Scimitar, which can also be seen as a witch's broomstick, although that one's a little bit of a stretch. Kozmo Forerunner is the Millennium Falcon and also silver shoes. And the Slip Rider is the X-Wing, but it's also ruby slippers, which is why it's red. If you haven't seen one or either of these franchises, then this whole explanation is probably confusing the hell out of you. But how exactly does the deck work? The archetype is kind of split up into two sections, that being what we call pilots and what we call ships. The pilots all have the same effects as a quick effect, and banish this card to special summon a Kozmo monster from your hand that is at least one level higher than this card. So with those pilots, you're going to be special summoning from your hand what we call the ships. And the ships all have the same effect, that if they are destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the grave, you can banish this card from your grave and special summon a Kozmo monster from your deck that is at least one level lower than it. So the small ones give you the big ones, and the big ones give you the small ones. Of course, we need to have at least one pilot in our hand to get play started, and at least one ship in hand to get our play started. So all of the pilots we play are Kozmo Farm Girl, Kozmo Tin Can, Kozmo Strawman, and Kozmo Dark Lady. Kozmo Dark Lady being a level 5 is a little bit awkward, but we'll get into that later. Kozmo Farm Girl and Kozmo Tin Can are basically your consistency cards, because apart from the pilot effect, Tin Can also, on end phase, you can pay 500 life points to reveal 3 Kozmo cards with different names from your deck, and your opponent randomly picks one of them to add to your hand, and then you send to the rest to the grave. So with this, on your own end phase, you're going to pick 3 ships, right? One of them will go to your hand, the other 2 will go to the grave. Goodbye to those other 2, but you're now guaranteed to have a ship in your hand so that you can use that quick effect to banish itself to summon that big one from your hand. And Kozmo Farm Girl, if this one does battle damage, she can pay 500 life points to add a Kozmo card from your deck to your hand. So obviously Farm Girl is only good if you're going second, and Tin Can is good regardless, but we want to play the 3 Farm Girl anyway, because in case we do go second, it is the only direct searcher in the deck, so we can use this and search directly for whatever ship we want. And then the Kozmo Strawman. This is kind of like the follow-up play one that we summoned from deck using the floating effects of our ships. The once per turn you can pay 500 life points, target one of your banished Kozmo monsters, special summon it, but its effects are negated, also destroy it during the end phase. So of course our ships will banish themselves when they're destroyed to summon another Kozmo from the deck, meaning that they can be resummoned by the Strawman and then they can attack, and on end phase they'll be destroyed to be banished again to summon yet another Kozmo from the deck. Kozmo Dark Lady is weird because it is a level 5. This is one we're often going to be summoning from our hand as if she were a ship, but she isn't a ship because she doesn't float, and she is a pilot because she banishes herself to summon one from hand. But she does have a really amazing effect that you can pay 1000 life points to negate your opponent's monster effect and destroy that monster. So she's a negate. Sometimes the tin can will give you her and you're going to be able to negate your opponent's stuff. But that gets us into our ships. Other than a negate, what else would we want? Kozmo Dark Destroyer and Kozmo Forerunner are the other main ships of the deck. Kozmo Dark Destroyer is the big one that we got recently. We only have 2 copies. We would play 3 if we had 3. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can target a monster on the field and destroy it, and it cannot be targeted by an opponent's card effects. So untargetability is one of the best forms of protection in this game. It is unfortunate that it's not very good against Orchist, but every other deck is going to have an issue dealing with this guy. And if they can destroy him, then he will float into a Kozmo Forerunner who also cannot be targeted by card effects. And also during your standby phase you gain 1000 life points, and with all of the life point paying that you're going to be doing, it's going to be good to gain some life points now and then. That's also why we're playing the skill life point boost alpha, so that all of our life paying doesn't kill us. The last remaining ship in the deck is Kozmo Slip Rider. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can target a spell trap on the field and destroy it. So it's a really simple game plan. You get a low level one on the field. On the opponent's turn, you can summon one of the big ones from your hand. Even on your own turn, you can summon it from your hand too as a quick effect. But the reason you might want to summon Kozmo Slip Rider or Kozmo Dark Destroyer on your opponent's turn is so you can get that beneficial destruction effect on summon. But of course, even though this deck does have strengths like untargetability, floating, and tagging out, it also has weaknesses. That being, if the opponent has non-targeting, non-destructive removal, we don't really have a way to deal with it. And if the opponent has a lot of follow-up plays, then our interruption isn't going to be good enough to stop them. So Weatherman thought it would be a good idea to put a bunch of back row in the deck. So he told me that idea, and it ended up being the best way to play the deck after lots of testing. The back row I decided to play was Forbidden Chalice, which I believe might be the best staple to play right now. Go ahead and check out our video on that. Ice Dragon's Prison, because it is really good against the majority of the meta decks right now, and can pretty much win the game by itself in certain situations. And Warning Point, to help keep us alive against really aggressive decks, of course, as well. I would say that you can play any back row in this deck, and technically speaking, you absolutely can. However, the choices of back row here really kind of patch up this deck's weaknesses in a very specific way. So the Kozmos can do their Kozmo thing, and if there's ever any weak points, these specific back row can make up for those weaknesses. And realistically, this deck doesn't really summon from the extra deck. You can play whatever you want in your extra deck. It really doesn't matter. So I explained to you all the card effects, but maybe you'll need a visual representation. So let's get into the game plan tutorial, shall we? See, in your hand is any pilot and any ship. However, if your opening hand happens to contain Kozmo Tin Can, the Kozmo Tin Can will kind of do the job by itself. We do have the Tin Can here, we do have ships as well, but just for learning purposes, going to summon that Tin Can and use its effect on the end phase. Going to use its effect. It's also going to ask you, if you have a ship in hand, if you can chain Tin Can. Say no to this, it's not going to be that helpful. So you're going to pick 3 Kozmos from your deck, right? And we're usually going to pick these 3 because, you know, we'd like to have a Dark Lady potentially. If we can't have the untargetability of the Forerunner or the Dark Destroyer, we can at least have the negate of the Dark Lady. Because we can't guarantee which one we're going to get, but we can guarantee that we're going to at least get a good one. So we're going to reveal 3. The opponent will randomly pick one of them and the other 2 will go to the grave. So we got the Kozmo Dark Lady, and on the opponent's turn, as a quick effect, the Kozmo Tin Can can banish itself at any point to summon a ship from my hand. We happen to have 3 ships in hand, which isn't going to happen all the time. You usually might have 1, but of course you're going to use them when you feel it's the best choice to do so. If you think that your opponent is about to activate a monster effect, you get the Dark Lady out before they get a chance to do it in the first place, so that when they go to do it, you can't just tribute the Tin Can, summon the Dark Lady, because the effect will have already resolved by the time Dark Lady gets out there. Also, you can use the Dark Destroyer if it happens to be in your hand. If your opponent summons a monster, you can get rid of it. You banish the tin can, summon Dark Destroyer. Dark Destroyer on summon will destroy that monster. So Slip Rider, of course, being the back row removal, you would save this in hand for when you want to destroy somebody's back row. So you don't just fire off the tin can immediately. You do it depending on the situation, depending on what ship you have in your hand, right? Also, if your opponent wants to target your tin can for something or remove your tin can for something, you can always just banish it in response to that and then summon a Kozmo from your hand. In this situation, the opponent's deck is Goki's. There's a chance that they might be activating Goki Suprex. I might be able to negate that with the Kozmo Dark Lady. So I could banish this, summon the Dark Lady from my hand, and then the quick effect on Dark Lady will show up because Dark Lady, like I said before, is also a pilot. So don't go ahead thinking that this is a negate when no monster effect has actually been activated yet. But this effect here just says that you can summon another ship from your hand, basically. Technically speaking, if we have a Dark Lady, it's even better because we could still have that negate, but also still summon another one of our ships from their hand to interrupt them even further. So the opponent's activated a monster effect, we want to negate it, so I'm going to negate it right now. On end phase, if they happen to have back row or another monster left, I could go into Slip Rider or the Dark Destroyer from my hand. It really depends on the situation and what ships you have in your hand. And really, Kozmos is just a grindy deck. This deck isn't really meant to OTK or combo, it's just meant to grind the opponent out until we are at the top of card advantage and we can just win the game eventually. That going first, what you want to have in your hand is one of your pilots and one of your ships, but that if you had a Kozmo Tin Can, the Kozmo Tin Can can do the job by itself. And it can be the same going second. However, you would prefer to have a ship in hand if you're going second, or some other higher level monster in your hand if you're going second, because the ability to quick effect banish yourself to summon a higher level Kozmo from hand can actually be pretty useful at helping you to play through back row. If the opponent activates a warning point on summon of your Kozmo, you can tag it out to summon a Kozmo from your hand, and that warning point doesn't matter. And pretty much the same thing with a compulsory evacuation device, Book of Moon, Forbidden Chalice, all of those other things, because it will just chain to those cards. But having a ship in your hand is going to make it a lot easier to go second, and that's pretty much the benefit of playing Kozmos, is that interruptions aren't that bad for you to play through. It's mainly things with really good protection and decks that have really powerful removal. Basically, Orcus is this deck's biggest weakness, but it can be good against other decks. In this example, I have a tin can. I'm just going to use the tin can. Let's say the opponent activates a compulsory evacuation device on me. I could use the tin can, banish itself in response to the compulsory evacuation device to summon a higher level Kozmo from my hand. In this case, it just so happens to be Kozmo Dark Lady, but it doesn't really matter which one it is. And we'd also hope to have back row to help interrupt, to help us deal with our opponent's board and their plays. But there's nothing really different in this game plan section of the video that I haven't explained in the going first portion. It's not really a going first, going second deck. It's just that going second, you want to have a higher level Kozmo in your hand more often, even if you have a tin can. The thing I want to show you is that after you've grinded, after you've dealt with your opponent's field and you finally have an opening to win, the Kozmo Farm Girl is basically a one card OTK. So you attack with a Farm Girl, deal damage, it'll search for any Kozmo. In this case, it'll be Dark Destroyer. Then we get that Dark Destroyer to our hand, then we can use the quick effect of the Kozmo Farm Girl to special summon the Dark Destroyer from our hand. If the opponent has another monster, we could destroy their monster. Also, if we had another Kozmo ship, we could destroy that ship with our Dark Destroyer and cause it to float into another one, so we could have even more damage. But here we're not going to do that, just going to attack, and that's game. So Farm Girl is a really good way to attack for game after a grind game. I didn't stress enough of the grindability of this deck, so let me just give you an idea of how grindy this deck can be. So let's say we've got a Farm Girl on the field, we end our turn, and we have a Dark Destroyer in our hand. On our opponent's turn, let's say they want to target Farm Girl, we tag it out into Dark Destroyer, destroy one of their monsters. By some way, they destroy Dark Destroyer. Dark Destroyer then banishes itself from grave to special summon Forerunner from the deck. Then, somehow they destroy Forerunner. Well, then it banishes itself to summon either Dark Lady or Slip Rider from the deck. Slip Rider will destroy a back row. Dark Lady will negate monster effect activations. Although I do want to point out that Dark Destroyer can of course summon the Dark Lady or the Slip Rider, and all of them can summon the Farm Girl, Tin Can, or Straw Man. But Dark Lady doesn't float in at all, so sometimes you're going to want to go into the Slip Rider just for more floating. And then of course the Slip Rider is destroyed, then we get to summon any of the low levels from deck, and at that point they'd either attempted to or successfully have destroyed multiple of our Kozmos. They might not have any gas left, so we can summon a Straw Man from our deck, and then on our turn we pay 500 life points, revive the Dark Destroyer. It will be negated because Straw Man revives things negated, but on end phase Dark Destroyer will be destroyed again, and you can summon whatever Cosmo you didn't summon the last time, get value that way. All of this, you're doing a lot of surviving, and you're also emptying your deck a lot, so you're more likely to draw into your powerful staples, the best of which being Ice Dragon's Prison in this deck. You can always steal your opponent's monster from grave to attack with it, or you can steal your opponent's monster from grave to get rid of their monster so that they got nothing left, and a simple Cosmo farm goal will be enough to win the game from that point. I'm not going to tell you that this deck is meta or competitive, but it is pretty solid, so if you really like Cosmos, this is probably the way to play it. But if you're looking to see whether or not it's worth investing in, I'm not going to say that. But it's still very good, and to prove it, here are some replays. So I'm going first here. I just summon the Tin Can and set an Ice Dragon's Prison. Then I reveal a Slip Rider, a Dark Lady, and a Dark Destroyer from my deck. So one of them will come to my hand, the rest will go to the grave. Regardless, I already have a Forerunner, so if the opponent's main form of removal is targeting, then I'm already going to be good because Forerunner is untargetable. It doesn't really matter what we get to our hand here. In our case here, we get the Slip Rider, so if we need to remove back row, then we also got that going for us. But you know, depending on the deck that we're playing against, then the Ice Dragon's Prison might also win us the game. But regardless, the Cosmo plan here is working, right? So what deck is the opponent playing? They're playing Salamangreats. So they're going to do their Salamangrate combo. And Salamangreats, they target in order to do all of their removal, basically. So the Forerunner is going to be a really good win condition, basically. It's going to be very difficult for them to get through it unless they play the right cards in the extra, which most of them don't play an out to Forerunner. But in this scenario, of course, I do have the Ice Dragon's Prison. I might as well revive his Gazelle and banish the Gazelle and the Sunlight Wolf so that he has no follow-up play and nothing on the field. So I'm going to do that, and he's going to scoop it up. Of course, that's how good Ice Dragon's Prison is, and that's pretty much how it goes if you use IDP against Orchist, against Phantom Knights, against a lot of decks, to be honest. So I'm going first here. This is kind of a funny replay. Of course, I have the Tin Can, which is going to reveal a Dark Destroyer, a Forerunner, and a Dark Lady. Those are the three that we're usually going to be trying to go for, because we do want to keep the Slip Rider in the deck so we can float into it. But yeah, going to get that Forerunner, and the Dark Lady and Dark Destroyer are going to go to the grave. But it's okay, we already have a Dark Destroyer. The opponent's going to be playing Red Eyes. Now, because of the fact that they can't special summon anything after using Red Eyes Fusion, if I just use Tin Can to banish itself to summon the Dark Destroyer, as soon as he fusion summons his monster and destroy his fusion monster, then he would be done for. It wouldn't matter, and I would already have won the game. However, I have Ice Dragon's Prison. So that's why this card is so damn good. I can do that, right? Summon the Dark Destroyer, get rid of it. Oh, but instead of summoning a monster from grave to banish that monster, I can just take that monster, the Ice Dragon's Prison. And then on my turn, I can do it again. So he activates Red Eyes Spirit to revive Red Eyes Black Dragon. For the BM, I'm taking his Red Eyes Black Dragon too. He uses a Return of the Red Eyes, but it doesn't matter. Now this hand was obviously busted. I didn't need the Ice Dragon's Prison to win, but I did what I did anyway. I just wanted to show this replay because I found it very funny. This is pretty much one of the only wins Red Eyes is going to get in 2023, and that's because somebody took their monsters from them. So I'm going against Heroes here. Unfortunately for me, Elemental Heroes is a really bad matchup because of what you just see on your screen. Super Polymerization is non-targeting, non-destructive removal. So I can summon my light monster here, but it doesn't matter. He's just going to be able to use it as material, and I won't be able to respond to it either, because Super Polymerization cannot be responded to. And even if I did, he could just use my Slip Rider or my Farm Girl as material regardless, and it would mean nothing. So he's got it as the Shining, which is why I've got back row in this deck. It's so important to have back row to keep us alive at least. So he's going to use MST, get rid of one of our back row here, and then he's going to summon a Blazeman. I'm going to Warning Point it just to keep us alive. Then he's going to attack me. He can't attack with a Blazeman, fortunately for me, because of the warning point, and I'm just going to be able to follow up here. So instead of tagging out, I'm going to use Farm Girl to attack into the Blazeman, which will allow me to search for a Kozmo Dark Destroyer, and I will be able to banish, summon the Dark Destroyer, destroy his Shining, and then attack in. I'll also have another warning point to help me be protected. He happens to top deck a Neos Fusion, must be nice. He can add back his Neos as well. I can warning point him, so he can't attack the Dark Destroyer this turn, but I'm gonna have to hope to draw into some way to out it. Unfortunately, I don't, so I'm only going to be able to search for a Kozmo here with a Kozmo Tin Can and have something to tag out into a Kozmo next turn. It's unfortunate, but you know, I am grinding here. He summons a Blazeman, he sends a Liquid Soldier, he activates Polymerization, and he goes into the Sunrise. His Sunrise will allow him to get a Miracle Fusion, then he will be able to Miracle Fuse here. He goes into Elemental Hero Nova Master. In battle phase, because of the fact that Sunrise will destroy a card if another one of his heroes attack, I banish my Tin Can to summon the Dark Destroyer from my hand so I can destroy that Sunrise. So he will destroy both of my monsters, but he will destroy 2 monsters, but he won't destroy more than 2 monsters here. So the Dark Destroyer is going to float into a Strawman. My plan here is that I would hope that he gets rid of the Dark Destroyer, so I can use my Strawman to revive one of these guys to hopefully keep me floating. But he's going to attack into that, knowing what I'm planning on doing. I'm going to banish this, just summon Slip Rider. Slip Rider, you know, get me another float. It won't be the float that I want, but it will be a float nonetheless. He's also going to draw a card, which is going to be fantastic for him. So I've got my Farm Girl here. Hopefully I can do something. I'm really thinning my deck here, hoping I get an Ice Dragon's Prison or something else that'll help me. I can at least attack into his Nova Master, so he'll only have the Neos. He gets a Pierce in the Darkness. I don't really see this in heroes, but he also sets a back row. He destroys my Dark Destroyer. That's both of my Dark Destroyers gone. Now I just have a Farm Girl, and finally, 5 cards left in deck. I top deck the Ice Dragon's Prison. Thank goodness. So he attacks. I use Ice Dragon's Prison. I banish his Neos and my Neos, and he scoops it up because now I can attack for game. How the Kozmos work, and this is the deck that I believe is best for Kozmos. If you have any questions about Kozmos or any ideas of your own about how to make the deck better, definitely leave them in the comments and we can talk about it. But apart from that, let me know how you feel about Kozmos in the comments below. Tell me your favorite Star Wars character, or your favorite Wizard of Oz character, or your favorite Kozmo card in general. Be sure to go ahead and check out our Dynamist video and our Orchest video. Follow us on TikTok and Twitter. And I've been Undead from Team 6K, signing out.
Wait, hey, I feel like the greatest. Nah, I feel like they hate it. Nah, I feel like the only one and there is no debating. Man, I feel like they leaving. Nah, I feel like they waited. Nah, I feel like this is the feeling before I can make it. Before I hit the stage, I just feel like I'm nauseous. Or I feel like I'm popping. Or I feel like a boss is. Maybe I'm feeling off it. Or I feel like I'm toxic. Maybe feeling intoxicated is the reason for all this. I want to whip it with the top down, dog, like I'm Earth Gang. Told him, listen, Wild Day shine like my first name. Told me go and grab a titty boy, it's my first chain. I ain't even switch gears yet, it's the first lane. The first pain I ever felt was the worst pain. And church came, and that feeling of hurt came. And her name made this feeling all worth pain. She made me realize what I had felt in the first place.